Hi guys, welcome to Hall is Fright. My name is Ezra Royal.
And I'm Heaven Williams.
And in today's episode, we're finally going to tackle the last movie.
Why did you look at me?
I wanted you to say it.
I don't know the number. Fifth Street something.
1666.
Fifth Street 16. 16?
16, yes!
Oh, okay. 1666.
So we recently rewatched this movie. I think it was about 4 or 5 days ago, something like that.
Yeah.
And I have reclaimed this as my favorite Fear Street movie. I forget how much I really enjoy this because, first of all, quick backstory. This movie, specifically out of the trilogy, spends a lot of time of jumping back and forth in the future and past, but the majority of the movie is set in the past, so it is like a time period based movie with a lot of twists on it. But it was really, 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 really good, and it kind of emulates the beginning of the Salem witch trial, which that happened in 1692. I want to say, they might be wrong, but I think it was 1692. Of the Massachusetts Salem witch trial.
I have no idea what that is.
You don't know about that?
Mm-mm.
So like I already previously said, I really, really, really enjoyed this movie, and the aspects of it being like a time-based period movie.
Mm-hmm.
It was so fun. It was so fun how they theatrically because it kind of felt like a theatrical interpretation. Like, I don't know, a part of it gave theater, specifically theater.
No, it did not.
You know, and that's where our thoughts vary on it. I don't know why it felt like a theater.
Like, have you seen plays?
Yes, I've seen plays. I've been to plays.
Does it give theater?
I don't know, like the way that the atmosphere of the movie felt. Like, it didn't feel like a movie when it came to like those parts. Like, it felt. I think it's because, to me, a lot of plays, when they do period-based movies, they do a lot with the costumes, right? Because the costumes have to be on point.
Right. And
number two, they do a lot with the accents and trying to keep everything on track. Mm-hmm. So, and we don't see, like, we see a lot of period-based movies today that are kind of relaxed. They aren't as serious. They either implement pieces of comedy into it that makes it modern day, or they implement little jokes. This felt so there. Also, the cast was mostly young, so again, I don't know if this think of people, young kids do plays. That's what I thought. But anyway, nevertheless, I really enjoyed this. It was a really fun interpretation of the Salem witch trials, and it really kind of showed what those people would have went through in real life, because like the hysteria that happened in there, like when they were like sitting there saying, I seen her do it, and everybody knows that nobody's seen them do that.
That was delusional. That was messed up. They just wanted to. That was messed up. Because I really no. Because that's messed up.
Because that's really what happened back then in the days. Like, they were really out here talking about, I seen her do it. I was right there. I watched her walk with the devil.
The delusion is crazy.
Honey, you were in your house eating your dinner in the middle of the dark with flies flying around your cabin.
Right.
You did not see nobody dancing no circle.
Right.
And if you did, why was you there? Like, again.
And you ain't stopping?
Yeah, nobody stopped. The whole town seen it, but nobody stopped it.
Right.
Like, it's just so crazy how people got that delusional.
Yeah.
And they just wanted, and obviously they went through something traumatic, because all the kids died, right? A lot of, literally, as he, who said that? I think it was Mr. Goode's older brother or younger brother. I forgot which one he was, but the Goode's brother. He was like, whole generations, whole bloodlines have been wiped out, because a lot of them were actually on their older sides. They probably weren't going to have any more kids.
Yeah. So
when their kids died, that was it. But also, my biggest question is, how did all of those kids get into that room and let their basically let themselves get?
I guess they thought it was
plucked.
Like, you know, like they got Sunday school for the kids. I guess it was like the preacher was like, "Well, can they talk? We know a girl can sing."
She was singing. There was no like clear communication. But my other thing is, like, why did the kids? There's like 20, 30 kids in that building.
Yeah, they all were sitting down
of various different ages.
Yeah.
Why did they all willingly go in there and get eye scooped?
Yeah.
Like, you see your friend over there getting eye scooped, you just sitting there. We have seen that every other person's victims didn't sit there. They're not possessed. So why were these kids not screaming, running, attacking, getting out? Like, that is one of the biggest mysteries.
Or maybe he did it and then sat them all up in there.
That's what I was thinking. But how did he do it?
No. And yeah, where did he get the time? Like,
the energy.
Yeah.
Where's he going to house one by one? Why was nobody noticing that their kids were going missing one by one? Like, when did this occur? Like, there's so many questions I have. So I do feel like that was like one of the many flaws in the movie that kind of just like it has bothered me since the first time I watched it. It's just like, how was he able to do that? Like, great execution of it. It looks really creepy. Love everything about it. But it's just the fact that how and why did he scoop up the eyes and put it in a pile?
It sounded like you said, why does it sound like a cow?
Why did it sound like a cow? I did. But that and those aspects of it really kind of just like, I don't know. I don't know. I just really enjoyed that part in that scene. So, long story short, on a little synopsis of the movie, basically in this movie we get to dive back in time in 1666 to see basically the origin of the Fear Street um
Which
Sarah
story?
Fear
Sarah Fear,
whole
yeah.
witch origin story. And we learn the truth, right? This is basically Sarah Fear showing her true story and her final thoughts and like
Right.
revealing the truth, right? So how this happens is that when am I saying her name wrong? Dina?
Yes, Dina.
Okay, Dina.
Dina.
When Dina touches the mosque to put the hand back, she
Yeah.
finally sees the full truth. Like,
Yeah.
she
Everything.
shows her, Sarah shows her everything, and so basically, Dina is Sarah in this, and Dina's brother is is
Sarah's
Sarah's brother,
brother.
etc. Like everybody, basically everybody from the original movies, the original two movies, takes character in the new setup.
Yeah.
So that was a weird way to explain it. So basically, all that happens, and long story short, we learned that the true origin of this witch power was actually warlocks, and that was going to be the Good family.
The Good family. So basically, Sarah was set up. Mr. Good was supposed to be her man because her daddy wanted Sarah Fair to go marry somebody. So they had a little bond or whatever, even though she didn't want him. She wanted what was her name? Hannah. She wanted Hannah, but she was like, you know how they was back in the day. They was like, no, 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 that's the witch stuff. But anyways, so they would talk, blah, blah, blah. And so everything had went down when he had first did the first little ritual or whatever.
Which, to add, I will state, when he first, we're gonna call him Mr. Good because it's gonna get confusing with names. When Mr. Good did the first ritual, he was doing it because his family died. He lost his wife and he lost his. I don't think the child was ever born, so it was unborn son or daughter.
And he had a brother that lived in the town.
Is at the brother lived in town. He moved his wife, his pregnant wife, and him further out of the settlement to start basically a new settlement to kind of expand on the union that was already there. And his father and his brother said it wasn't going to work out. It's not great that Lance is fertile. He said, I believe it, I believe it, I believe it, I believe it. So he went out there with good, ambitions,
Intentions,
right?
yeah.
Good ideas. So his wife started dying. She got sick. She was pregnant with his baby. And I think that was the reason she was dying because she was having complications with her birth. So he took his wife up there near the mountains, I think, or deeper in the Black Woods or whatever it was, to go see the local, they called her the widow. Basically, she lost her husband. She caused her to go look for Cocoa Puffs. She went into the forest, met with the natives. They taught her some stuff. She lives up there now. So she is actually referenced as the local witch, right? Which, let's actually, to add on to this, in this whole movie, nobody, not one adult in this whole film during this time period ever suspected. They suspected witchcraft, but they never suspected the actual witch in the woods.
Right, because if people knew who she were, the kids knew where she were. They knew where to get her. So obviously they had to hear that information from somebody else. So everybody knew that she was in there with books and spells and everything. And it was like, oh, it could be old girl up there in the woods.
They blamed their children.
Yeah.
Nobody actually thought it was the actual witch up in the actual dark woods, the dark forest. That was just a hip skipping away from the Union.
Yeah.
So that is another thing that I felt kind of was like a little plot hole. It's just like, y'all, there's an actual witch up the hill. Why are we
And why
not
didn't the
suspecting her?
kids defend themselves with that? Like me personally, I'm like, no. Why y'all saying it's me? It's a witch up there in the woods.
That's another thing. It's just like there was not enough defending. There was just too many people in this movie were just too quick at accepting their face. But I mean, that's what makes the movie good. That's what drives the plot. Is that level of like stupidity slash of just like non-action. So basically, that happens. He goes there trying to save his wife. His wife, it was ended up too late. The witch could not end up doing much to help her because it was already too late. They were already dying when she got there. There wasn't nothing she could do. So they end up He's ended up getting into a big depression. Dina's character, who is at this point is Sarah. Sarah is spending her time really trying to help Mr. Goode, make him feel better in any way she can, giving him a pig to help him, settle there so he can have food, help him grow things. Like, she's basically being a good friend to him because that's how the relationship is at this point. A very good friend. Her dad thinks it would be a good idea for her to marry him, but she's like, nah, I'm good. And her and Mr. Goode never really talk about that. So at this point, they're just really strictly friends. Friends with a decently big age gap, may I add. But at first, it was very innocent. It genuinely was innocent. There was no keen on it. We never seen anything from him that gave him the aspect that he really liked her. It was always just seeming like that's a really good friend.
Yeah.
So, long story short, later in the movie, where we kind of got like the views that something wasn't right and that the witchery is really happening now, which was the night after they had, I think it was like a moon dance or something of the sort,
Yeah,
which
something that the kids were having.
which is actually synonymous with the original. Well, I don't know if it was the original. Like, this is historically factual, but I do know in a couple of Salem witch trial movies, this is synonymous of what happened. So a lot of the kids there had a moon festival. Basically, they lit a bonfire in the middle of the night, went into a field, and started dancing in the woods,
They got high off berries.
high bear and stuff. That's what happened in this movie. But in the other ones, basically the kids were just dancing in the woods. And back then, dancing, singing, chanting in circles and stuff like that in the middle of the night under a moon were all signs of witchcraft. A
I
lot of
mean, it
people thought
was
singing and
because that's
dancing.
scary.
I mean, to give fairness, it was very scary, but again, it's just like kids were just gonna have
Oh my
fun.
god,
What?
we literally did that with Ashes. Ashes, we all found
Yeah,
roses and
it's
posies. Oh
it's
my
it's so
god.
much. Mind you, if you would have did that in 1600s, you'd be like, oh, them kids over there saying spells and corners.
Oh my
But
god.
nevertheless, yeah. So they were doing. That's how it happened with Chicago. And this adaptations of it, they weren't doing that. They were just basically doing what kids do now: have bonfires, get high. This time off of berries, and they were drinking a little alcohol, I think, and just having fun. They were just having fun, living it up. There's kids of all age groups there. Well, not all age groups. It was mostly the older kids, but of all older kid age groups, we had, I think, a couple of 20-year-olds, 18-year-olds. I think that's the dude
Who tried the
one of Mr. Goode's, because was that we never figured
I
out the
don't
dude that tried
know.
to attack
Hannah.
Hannah. That wasn't the weird stinking outhouse
Yeah,
dude.
that
That was, I thought, Mr. Goode's younger or older brother.
I don't know.
I thought that's who it
I
was.
don't know if we ever got any clarification on who their brother was.
There was a lot of men in this, like a lot of
Yeah.
older men in this, that we never really got clarification with names, but they were kind of important because he was one of the people who seen what happened. Nevertheless, we never got too much clarification on who his character was. So that ended up happening, right? And after all of that, Dina and Hannah end up going into the woods. Sorry, Hannah and Sarah end up going into the woods. They making out. They show that they actually love each other, which for them this seemed to be their first time actually showing any intimacies towards each other. Beforehand it was all like friendly little flirting, but friends do that, so that's fine. But this was the first time for it to be truly intimate and them to really realize that, oh, I really like you, right? Mind you, Hannah's dad is the priest in this little union area, this town, and the mom, I guess, is the symbol of like the high priestess or like the priestess wife or whatnot.
And she
So
not up for none of that.
she not up for that. She already know this. So basically, they end up kissing and whatnot in the woods, and somebody shovels in the like behind the trees and the shrubs, and they know they get seen, so they
like,
run.
nah.
They run back home, and they're like da 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 da. The next day,
That's when everything goes.
all hell breaks loose. Like everything goes down. Dead dogs in the well. Mother pigs eating all her babies. Sickness flies. The preacher,
Tripping.
which is Hannah's father, is sitting there going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Flies are flying around him. All that's happening,
right.
And they think it's because of their sinner deeds that they did that night, which was kissing each other. When all actuality, it was actually Mr. Goode. He had, I guess, had a mental break finally, and went up there, killed the actual witch, the actual only witch that was there, stole her book, did a spell,
right,
and basically invited the devil into the union, into his life. He struck a deal with the devil. That deal with the devil is he sacrifices, the way he saw it, is he sacrificed one soul every couple of years to generations, And in return, nothing but prosperity and goodness will happen for the Goods and the town that they live in.
Right.
Right? So that's what happened. He sacrificed one soul, Hannah's dad. But what he didn't realize is that that one soul
Would take
would
more.
be sacrificed, but that soul would take more. So that soul, Hannah's dad, ended up killing, I think it was like, I don't want to over
Um,
exaggerate, but I think it was like 12 to 20 kids.
I think it was more than 12, but yeah, around 20.
Somewhere around there. So that one soul took that many people. And in return, his lands would become fertile and nothing but good things will happen to him, which it did later in the movie. We get the synopsis it did. Obviously, that movie didn't. He had to fight Sarah. He admitted his love to her, everything. And he was like, together we can do something great. We can be better. Um, the traditional, like, crazy person ends up falling in love with our victim, all that type of stuff. Um, and at first, he truly did not believe that everything was happening was because of the witch curse he did, because he did not. He truly thought it would be sacrificing one soul. He thought he would do a spell, it would end up killing whoever he gave the name of, and it would be it. No, it killed up most of the people. He didn't think it would start to cause this level of evilness happening in the Union, and he was genuinely shocked by this. Like, he was genuinely shocked when he broke. He was one of the people who broke into their church house to find all the kids dead. He was shocked himself. He ended up killing Hannah's dad, who was the person that he gave the soul to. Like, he ended up doing that. He ended up murdering him. Well, sacrifice the soul to. He ended up murdering him. He was shocked by that. He was shocked that the whole town would go into this mental deranged delusion and start blaming their own children for stuff like this. He was shocked that the whole town was trying to hang Sarah and her lover. Even after he found out Sarah and her were lovers, because he actually seen them kiss, so he knew they were lovers. Even though he still tried to convince them to marry each other, he did not want to see them hurt. Like, he did try his hardest to keep her alive and to stop all these adults
But those
for
crazy
going crazy.
delusional people were not having it. They were like, "Nope, I seen them with the devil last
Hmm.
night. I seen them."
Even though nobody's seen them except for him.
Yeah.
So he generally tried to stop it. He tried to stop his own. He beat up his own brother. Everything. Like, he tried to stop all this worst actions from happening because he didn't expect it. Even when he realized what he did was this bad, and that he already knew he wasn't going to stop it. He was going to continue to do this, but he didn't realize that the people would go this crazy over it, right? Which is understandable that people would go this crazy. Like, they one day everything was fine, next day bad things are happening, and all their kids are dead. Like, I can imagine delusion would spark up. I just wouldn't imagine that you would continuously just not make logic go with that. But that's what ended up happening, right? So after all of that, we see him and Sarah in the catacombs, not the catacombs, but the witch's mark, which basically that's what it is. Like, the witch's mark is this big mark, but that's also underground in the system of caves that was created when he did the first sacrifice. And the caves are in the layout of the witch's mark. So the witch's mark is not only an actual mark, but it's a map of all the evil stuff that goes on in there. So he's up chasing in there. He's trying to convince her to stop. He's trying to convince her, like, he keeps saying, I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to hurt you. I want you to work with me. I want you to be with me.
Right.
We can do greatness. And he realizes that it isn't going to work. So as she breaks out the church, after she's been fighting him under catacombs, because she breaks through the church, get through there, runs outside, she's getting ready to tell everybody, like, hey, he's the witch. It's him. It's him. He grabs her by the back of the head.
Right. Switch up on her and be like, I got the witch.
I got the witch. Because they were looking for her, because they already had caught her girlfriend.
Yeah.
Because they already suspected them two being the witches. They caught the girlfriend, was getting ready to hang her, and they caught her. They were already looking for her. So he catches her, brings her, he has to give her up. He didn't want to, but he has to, because she was going to snitch on him. And so they go get ready to be hung, and out of nowhere, she screams.
She couldn't let her girl go down like
she
that.
couldn't do it.
She took the blame for both of them, talking about, nah, I possessed her. She was all under my control. This, that, and third. I was with the devil. I was a witch. This, that, and third. And so she got hung. And then her friends were all sad and depressed. That's why they moved the body, because everybody thought the body was under that tree. But they moved the body to go.
Her friends and her ex-lover ended up, by ex-lover I mean Hannah, not him, ends up moving her body and burying it in that area where that red moss is. Right. And that red moss is connected to her because her friends put it over her. They sketched her. They did all this stuff. It was her friends who did that. And her friends were really weird ones. Even despite all the weird stuff happening in the whole town, blaming it on them, and like everyone going cuckoo for cuckoo, they still knew, that's not true, babes. That's not true. That's not our friend. But one thing that really bothered me, along with everything else we talked about, is like how no one in this town could come up with a logical reason of like, okay, if it is one of our kids who's doing witchcraft, where did they get this knowledge from? This generally just doesn't pop up, right?
Right.
So why are we again not blaming the witch in the mountains that's right up the hill from where we live? I don't understand.
Right.
But nevertheless, that happens, right? That's the end of the story. She knows the truth now. So now we get teleported back into present
the
day,
present time, yes.
where Sheriff Goode is looking for the kids because it's pretty obvious that those two
They
kids,
know what's
Dina and
going
her
on.
brother, know the truth. And
Mm.
he has to stop them by killing them, or at least killing the sister, so that his family can keep the power that they have. Because at this point, it has been multiple generations. And also, we see a family tree in there.
Mm.
And I don't think that family tree was necessarily was to explain that the Goods never have girls. For a little backup, there's not one Good that we've seen in the flashbacks in the little family tree that was a female that has done this. It has always been a male line. But I think that it's always the firstborn son. Um, so I think it's one of those little royalty type situations where they choose the first eldest son to do everything. But we also haven't seen it. Like each Good seems to only have boys. I don't know if that was a benefit of the curse that happened. I don't know if that's one of the things that they asked the devil for in return. But nevertheless, it's only boys that do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the oldest son, etc., to do this, all that fun stuff. So long story short,
they get out.
They get out and they create this plan to try to kill him because they realize the only way to stop this is to kill him. Which I don't know how they got that connection, because even if they have to kill him, he's only one Good. There are multiple Goods.
Yeah, but I'm guessing only one person. I'm guessing they guess that only one person has to do the ritual for the family.
I get that. I guess I get that point.
So they had to, stop the cycle.
But I also don't understand. What my little thing about it is I don't understand if it has to be the oldest Good son or just the oldest Good male from whatever generation it is, because that Good didn't have any kids. He's also the older son. We know that his younger brother, who was the mayor, has kids. Presumably two boys. I know we've seen one boy. I can't remember if the other child that we seen was a girl or not. Right. I think it was a boy. He's married. They're living in a big house, etc. So was this Good never planning to have kids? We see him no interest. He's not dating women. Yeah. He's not married. We see no indication that he's married. We see no indication he has kids of his own. So was it going to go to his brother's oldest child? Does it not matter about if it's the oldest kid's oldest kid? It just matters that if it's the oldest kid that's a male in that generation. Yeah. Which is what I'm thinking it's giving from. Because this Good has no he's not married. No wife.
But yeah,
no
I'm
kids,
guessing
nothing.
That's why they was ready to kill him, because it was like, oh, he ain't got no kids. It won't keep going if we get rid of him. Like
so my other little thing is like, does that mean that? Because I just thought, like, shouldn't he be preparing his nephew for this to pick up the role? Because we've seen in a lot of the other Goods, they started training their sons at a younger age. Like, it didn't start when their sons were 20-something. Like, from the flashbacks, all the kids looked around older teens. Yeah. And his nephew looked around, he was getting around that age, if not out of age. Mm-hmm.
He was like 5.
No, that was the younger one. There was another one.
It was no older one.
Well, we also seen it from a TV picture. We didn't see it from like a picture. But we can go back and look at that, double check that. But yeah, that's what to me, it seemed like that was happening. I was like, is there no preparation? And also, if he dies, shouldn't the brother know about this? Because I'm guessing like this is a whole family preparation.
Yeah.
The tunnel in the house was, I think, in one of the older brothers. Was in the other brother's mansion.
That was his house.
That's crazy. Wait, how was he affording that? Well, his family's wealth.
Well, no, I'm guessing that house has been in the family for generations.
It would have had to be. You're right.
It go to whoever is.
It was in that tunnel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but basically, they get the plan to kill him. They get what's her name, Ziggy, and Martin, the dude that Dina's brother had to get out of jail because he owed him, so that's why
I like him Afro Man. His Afro was really cool. It was like it was more box. It was more box type, wasn't it? It was more like a box.
Martin. Anyway, that was his name? Yes, it was.
Okay, Mr. Martin.
Anyway, so they get the plan, blah blah blah. Sydney What was her name? That city. It was Christine. Her full name was Christine. Yeah, but Ziggy, we're gonna call her Ziggy because that's her name. So Ziggy, she had to turn on her man, her ex-man, whatever. And so he thought he was gonna, have a little trip down memory lane. And she was like, nah, boom. So they get the blood on him. But he turned around and get the blood, the juicy gray, green blue blood on
Okay.
her.
To clarify this a little bit, they ended up creating this plan to realize that to
Oh,
kill him,
because
they're
they
going to get the
knew the
murderers to kill
killers.
what you call it,
Yes.
and they know that the killers follow basically the blood of the person that they want to kill.
Yes.
So they take some of Dina's blood because they're all after Dina, obviously, because she knows the full truth and they want to kill her. They take her blood, put it in some water guns, mix it with some UV glow in the dark paints. They shut out all the mall lights, switch up some UV lights so they can track where all the blood is, make little trails, and then their goal is to drench Mr. Goode, Cop Goode, Sheriff Goode, I mean, in the blood glue so all the murderers will come and kill him. So that's what they did.
And long story short, they get in a little tiff. He gets away. Everybody can get okay, Christine, blah, blah, blah. So, what's her name? Dina, she goes to chase after Mr. Goode inside the little tunnel. While everybody else is fighting the little, possessive demon people.
Which, can we talk about how big the Witch's Mark is? Because at first we thought the Witch's Mark was just as big as as a little campground, as a little thing by his house.
Yeah.
But the Witch's Mark stretches all the way from his house, the mansion, the family house, which is in Sunnyside, all the way to the mall in Shadyside. All the way, which I'm guessing the mall was built. I want to say the mall, I think, was built on the campground, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
the old campground. Yeah, because of the tree and everything. Yeah. So we know that Witch's Mark spans from the campground to Sunnyside to probably even a little bit further. That's a big tunnel system. It's a humongous tunnel system. It's not like this little small tunnel system that we thought that was just roughly the size of the campground. Like, it spans into 2 cities, right? 2 towns, more or less, because they're not really cities, they're just towns. They're not that big, but to 2 towns. So this is a big network of this Witch's Mark that like encompasses. And mind you, only these negative and really positive things happen in this area, right? Only super good things happen in Sunnyvale, just in those town outlines, and only really bad things happen in Shadyville, just in those town outlines. And we get that in the flashback period earlier in this movie, when one of the townspeople says, I've traveled outside of the Union. And for our understanding, the Union is a remark to them being colonists. They colonized that part of the Americas, and that was their colony, and they just called their little township a Union. But outside their township, there was no signs of evilness, the witch plague or whatnot. There was no signs of that. The earth was green, plants were growing, animals were doing fine. Only bad, poisonous, and evil things were happening in the Union, right? So that's how we know this stuff is limited to this area. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Witch's Mark honestly spread itself over the whole town, both towns in general. But that's where that happened. But yeah, like Heaven was saying, they did that. He ended up running into the back of the mall under some grates, which again led to the tunnel system, the Witch's Mark tunnel system. And Dina followed him because she knows she had to finish this. And the main reason they're all doing this is to save her girlfriend. Her girlfriend is possessed. That's the next person's name up there that he uses to sacrifice their soul by possessing them to end up killing her. And one thing we also learn about this, their souls technically aren't sacrificed until they end up, I'm either guessing, end up killing somebody, or they end up dead. Like, they end up dead, right? So we know this because, long story short, they end up killing him, right? It was basically him and her were down there fighting. Somehow Dana's girlfriend got loose, which was one of the funniest things ever.
Because she ran into the door and they went growling to her.
It literally sounds like a little Rottweiler.
Yeah.
And she was just jumped down there like a little monkey ape into the tunnel system and was just running. right? And she just jumps up on Dina and starts like full on fighting her. So Dina has to literally bash her head in on the thing to knock her out.
No, she didn't.
She did. Yeah, she hit her head. She had pushed her. She hit her head. I was
Oh,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
remember, because I was like, she's gonna have bad concussion memory or something like this. Because her head, this girl head has been hit in so many times. Like she's gonna have migraines, loss of memory, brain swelling. Like she's done for. Like I don't know. Like they have busted that girl head in so many times. But besides all of that, they end up taking him and her end up having a little battle. Dana and Sheriff Goode end up having their final battle, and she washes him with. I think she stabs him in the eye with a knife because she takes his hand and
And
shoves
put
it on the
thing that makes you remember all
that
the
big gooey. I guess the heart of the
of
witch's mark.
yeah.
She's put it on him. He starts seeing everything. So she ends up she basically puts his hand on the little witch's mark heart, and he ends up seeing
Sees all the
everything,
killers,
all the killers.
everything.
And we know that this is the doing not of the witch's mark itself, but of the witch's mark, kind of like because connection with Sarah. Because long story short, once Sarah was going to be hung, she basically told Nick that I will follow you forever.
Yeah.
I will do this and do that. Which in this universe is making me think that anybody could be a witch and do a curse if your emotions and thought process are strong enough. Because like at this point, she had given up trying to free herself or tell the truth about her name. She knew that the truth was going to come out in its own way, in its own time, and she would be there to help do that. So she said that, and we got this flashback and everything of future generations of him and so forth and so on. So when his hand touched that, it was her showing all the evilness that his family has done.
And since he was distracted, she had
Dina was able to end him.
Yeah.
And the immediate killing with him end up destroying and closing up the witch's mark. And it's so interesting and cool how it happened, because it's almost like the witch's mark itself, like the symbol of itself, ends up closing in like it never existed.
Yeah.
The little heart, little blob of the what you call it, ends up disintegrating and dying out. All of the killers end up poofing away. Like something off of weird like Stranger Things and in-game, like, but it just poof into like this little ash looking stuff. And they end up doing that. The only killer that didn't do that was Sarah's girlfriend, because she hadn't killed yet, I'm guessing, and she hadn't been killed. So there was no time for her soul to actually be fully, like the sacrificial role of the soul to be complete. So she ends up just waking back up and being her normal self again. And he's dead. But at the end of the movie, someone we see ends up grabbing I'm guessing it's a grimoire, the spell book, and ends up taking it. And another weird thing is that little altar room that he did the spell in was still standing.
Yeah.
Now I'm guessing that's because he found that cave and carved it, because we've seen in the first couple of clips when the original Mr. Goode was doing that spell, that room was already there, and it was what you call it. So that's probably why that room still stands. But I'm guessing all the tunneling system and all the cave systems either closed up or disappeared. But that was that. So we see somebody grab that sign, the little book, and I think that's going to lead to the next movies
that they're working on now. But like you were saying, when you were talking about the brother, or his brother, that had me thinking maybe he already knew it. He went down there once he found out his brother was dead. He went down there to go get the book.
I was thinking that too. But the only thing that pulled me back from that is that during that time, as soon as his brother died, as soon as his brother died, and basically the connection and the deal was broken, because the Goode family had broken the connection with the only person that was doing that. And I'm guessing the connection can only be strong with the eldest son of that family. So unless he passes it on to the next generation, and I'm guessing there's some type of incantation or original spell that each person who inherits that has to end up saying. But since that had already happened, since that hadn't happened yet, I'm guessing that it just cut the deal. So Sunnyside starts to have bad things happen, car accidents, and the Goode family, which is the living Goode family, which is his younger brother, and their family end up going to jail or being investigated. And somehow they pin a lot of the deaths on Sheriff Goode, which I would love to get like more insight on that, like how that happened, but they end up pinning some deaths on him. And he's basically known as a murderer, like a mass murderer in this city. So all that happens. I thought it was Nurse Lane who grabbed the book, and the reason I thought it was Nurse Lane, because in the end of this movie, we see that Ziggy went to go give, I'm guessing, Nurse Lane her books that they took the little notebooks and stuff of like stuff she was writing about the witch's curse and her daughter and how it affected her.
Right.
She ends up winning to see Nurse Lane. Nurse Lane's still alive. She's in her own house. She's just an older lady now, and she ends up giving her these books back, and I'm guessing they end up reconnecting.
Right.
And I feel that she went down there because she was the only other person that I know of that was really searching for this place, number one, and number two, that knew this much about the curse, and actually even number three, that has a motive. Her motive would be that maybe she wants to make a deal to get her daughter back.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know she can't get her daughter back exactly, but she can get something along the lines of her daughter back. And so I feel like it could have been her. That's my number one guess, is that it was Nurse Lane.
That was my number one guess. But also I was thinking maybe Sam's mom to like try to like reinvert her daughter. Because remember when she was with Dina, she was like, oh, she had an attitude. And maybe she's like going out to get revenge on Dina. Because for some reason, everybody be coming for Dina. So maybe she's like either gonna come for Dina or something like that.
It could have been her, because that's the only other person that like has a grudge on the whole cast.
Yeah.
But my one complaint with that is how does she know about it?
Yeah, she don't know.
Yeah, that would be the knowing thing.
Yeah.
Like it for me right now, and specifically since they showed us that Nurse Lane was still alive, that's my number one culprit right now. And Nurse Lane is like incredibly like older. They're not making her like a 70-year-old lady. Like she looks to be in her 60s, maybe or late 50s as the earliest of her age, youngest of her age, but she still looks young enough to be going to go get old books. Like she can move around, drive, and do what she need to do. Yeah. So I feel like it's Nurse Lane. I feel like that was their big reason of showing her to us. Yeah. Because if they wanted to if they wanted a closing end scene or showing us Ziggy doing something, she didn't have to go see Nurse Lane. She could have went to go see her sister's grave and said, "We finally did it. We broke the curse. We did." We were, like that would have been sentimental and powerful enough itself. But the fact that she went to Nurse Lane with the original books and stuff that she took from Nurse Lane, well, her sister and them took from Nurse Lane about the witch's mark and all that, I just feel like that was them really dropping Easter eggs. But never the fact, I really cannot wait to see the next. I hope they do a next trilogy of the movies, because I think this one when this first happened, I thought this was one of the smartest things that Netflix has done in a while, is like make 3 movies continuous, guarantee us a story from end to start, because we know Netflix is synonymous and famous for canceling things earlier or not continuing things. So the fact that they just threw in so much money, said, give me a full story, 3 movies, start to finish, no matter what we're going to release these. We're not going to release these over the span of 3 years. We're going to release these over the span just over a couple, I think it was like over a couple months. Yeah. So I think each month a new movie came out, if I'm not mistaken. Thanksgiving. That coming out. That comes out this week, I think. They're making another Ghostbusters movie.
I think that was about it.
Yeah, I think that was. Yeah. But yeah, thank you all for watching. We will see you all next week with another episode. I don't know what we're going to be talking about next week yet. I think we're going to start... I think next week we're going to start to finish watching the last season of the Fear the Walking Dead.
We can talk about the last season, but I was thinking since Netflix have all the like the Note movie, all that movie.
The Note movie?
Yeah, Note.
I haven't seen that one.
But you know Us, all that.
Oh, that one.
All of those, because I only seen one of those movies.
Okay, all the Jordan Peele movies.
Yeah, the Jordan Peele movies. I only seen Get Out.
Okay, I've seen Get Out. I've seen Us. So yeah. The newest one I have not seen, but I have heard very good things about it. But we might give it a try, so I might do that. But anyway, nevertheless, we'll see you guys next week. You can catch the podcast pretty much on almost any main social media platforms at Hollow's Fright. You can catch me anywhere at Ezra Royal. That's EZRAROYALL. On pretty much any social media except for Facebook, so all the main ones. And
you can catch me on all social medias at Heaven Williams with 2 M's at the Williams, HEAVENWILLIMMS.
Okay, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you all soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.